I want to do the 1,000 kilometers so
Yeah.
that I can actually tell people to say, if I can walk 1,000 kilometers, you can walk a few meters to the supermarket. At some point, I was struggling with my mental health issues because, money disappeared at the Ministry of Environment when I had entrusted them to be partners. When I got to the destination, my body shut down. I was admitted to hospital.
Welcome to Travel Devil. I'm your host, Clara Francken, and in a world full of mass tourism, we're here to talk about unconventional travel. Let's get into it. Welcome to Travel Devil. Today we're going to talk about a 1,000 kilometer walk in Botswana that happened to create more awareness around the need to reduce our carbon footprint. And today I'm sitting here with Reuben Ntuluki. He's a climate activist and the CEO and founder of Carbon Environmental Awareness Society. Reuben, so happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Claire. That was a warm welcome and introduction. Yes, my name is Reuben Ntuluki, like you mentioned, a climate activist in Botswana. We did Carbon Environment Awareness Society. We did a walk, 1,000 kilometer walk in 2015, just to raise awareness on people reducing their carbon footprint on a day-to-day activities as they walk about their mobility.
Before we're getting into this 1,000 kilometer walk, I want to know a little bit more about you. Can you introduce yourself with your own words?
Where do I start? I'm very passionate about humanity, and every day I always strive to put effort in trying to make it a better place for future generations. And having graduated out of the University of Botswana, I thought to myself, how can I be applicable to my community in a way that will help uplift them with the skills that I've acquired. We had a challenge of climate change in Africa, and our local communities are not coping with the challenges and the impact that's on the ground, especially the farmers. So I thought to say, as a young graduate, what can I do? How can I help to empower my community to be climate resilient? And this is how Carbon Environmental Awareness Society came about, with other young graduates that were doing other disciplines aside from the environmental field. And we started volunteering in other NGOs just to gain the knowledge of how to run an NGO and how to impact change using this kind of entities. And we volunteered the Red Cross and then YK Charitable Trust. That's where I learned about how to administer the works, because they do works in the Makadi pen to raise funds for local communities as well. So I started volunteering there as part of the youth leadership program, and that's how I gained the passion, to want to give back to my community. And then 2015 we registered Carbon Awareness Society with a group of other young graduates, me as the founder and the chairman. Up until now, we've been trying to create awareness in community spaces. Sometimes we go to the quota where we talk to the leadership and the people to say, how do we combat climate change? How do we reduce our carbon footprint through our mobility and other activities?
Yeah. Wow, amazing. And how did you grow up? Like, how was it as a child? Did you also care about the environment when you were a child, or was this like not anything on your mind?
Funny enough, or when I was still at primary school, I remember my father took me to one of the wildlife sanctuaries in the vicinity of Francistown. They used to call it the Basin Game. So they kept a couple of species that side, and something sparked in me the love for environment. Hence, I was already decided when I was doing my junior school and my senior high to say, when I go to varsity, I'm gonna pursue my environmental curiosity even at varsity level. And then immediately after I finished the lecture rooms, I wanted to jump on board and just contribute to the paradigm shift to say, how do I take what I learned in the lecture room and apply it in on the ground? And by doing so, also creating employment for ourselves, because as young people in Africa, sometimes, we graduate and we end up, staying a long time without getting any form of employment. So I thought to also now continue to improve my skill and my career by being applicable on the ground and doing more research and learning from other experts. This is how I also get to get to link with people like yourself, Clara, to continue doing this sustainability as a whole, so that collectively, if we do our efforts, if you do and if I do in Botswana, if you do in Germany, somebody does in Japan, somebody does in UK, collectively, if we do, then we can help save planet Earth.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. And that's very true. We have to stick together. I'm also not only doing stuff for the environment as well with my podcast, but I'm also a travel podcast. So I also want to know a little bit about your travel background. Did you travel a lot as a young person?
Funny enough, I took the conscious to when in Botswana, when you are 18, you are legally can get your driver's license. So I decided to delay my driving years until I was in my early 30s. That's when I started pursuing, acquiring a license, so that I delayed the need for young professionals who get financial acquirance, and the first thing they want to do is that they're hungry to want to buy a car with a big engine. So I wanted to stay away from that kind of crowd and maybe delay my driving years. And in that case, continue using public transport collectively, share one engine with other 16, sometimes 50 passengers, depending on the capacity of the bus. Sometimes, back in the day when there was still the train, somebody could buy a ticket and get a train to long destinations. So I used to travel a lot when I was younger, and I was using the train. And then I was using public transport. And where we need to do a trip with friends, we collectively try to use one engine and increase the capacity, so that we use one engine instead of many engines, and while going to the same destination. And these are some of the things I also, try to teach people as I go along, creating awareness in sustainability and eco mobility, to say you can choose to not drive very soon. You can drive later.
Yeah. And then you went to start your 1000 day of walk journey. What was like the spark that really made you do it? Like, was there one moment that happened, something specific happened, and that drove you to take this action?
People found the environmental topic very boring. Sometimes I'll go to a newspaper to ask for a column to just write about climate change, and you can imagine it was still back in 2015 when we had just signed the Paris Agreement, and Botswana was part of the to be part of the obligation. And I was going to newspapers, to radio stations, to try and solicit interviews, to do, sensitize people about, what the Paris Agreement is saying. And it was difficult the presenters didn't find it as a scoop, and they're saying your story is not going to sell, we're not going to have the numbers, and we're not going to be making money, we're not going to get adverts from out of the story. So I was getting frustrated every day to say, how do I, create a situation, a platform whereby I can, tell my countrymen to say, you also need to watch out on your carbon footprint in your travel and also in your day-to-day activities, so that we can help combat climate change. So because of that frustration, to say, I couldn't even stop an ordinary man to talk about it. They would rather want to talk about, social issues and the other things that are interesting, scandals and stuff like that, or entertainment, football. And I thought, what can I do?
Let's make sustainability entertaining.
Yeah, what can I do that will entertain people and get them glued while I teach them about environment at the same time? And then I thought to myself, let me do the 1,000-kilometer walk. And then I took a year and a half trying to, but I was always been a karateka when I was growing up, so my fitness was always in check. So it was just to perfect the skill and get my body in line to make sure that when I do the walk, it's not going to be dangerous for me in terms of my health and my physique. After that, after I actualized and satisfied myself that I can do it, I went to the government, I approached them through the office of the president to say, I have this initiative. I want to walk through the national park and teach people about the environment, but I want to reach the capital city as I go along. The walk is supposed to take a month and a half, and then we'll be doing pit stops along the way, talking to people in villages that are along the way. But unfortunately, although the government had signed the Paris Agreement, they still didn't see the need to have a budget going towards fighting climate change and combating
Yeah.
because these other developmental needs, infrastructure and so forth that they need to worry about. And then through the Ministry of Environment, I tried to bring corporates to lobby and raise some funds through sponsorship. Unfortunately, the funds ended up not reaching my NGO, although the timeline to do the work was almost approaching. So my dad played a lot of role in trying to make sure that despite the local resources, I continued with the work anyway.
So that means that basically, when you started this walk, you had this idea, you prepared yourself for it, you pitched it then because you thought this would be like there's a great opportunity to actually raise awareness. And then you were going to get funds, but then it didn't work out the way you wanted it because the money didn't like how come that the money didn't arrive? Because one thing you were mentioning is okay, so they signed the agreement, they're basically officially saying like, yeah, we think this is important, but then reality is different. But then the second thing is people sending money, but then the money doesn't arrive. So how is that possible?
It was a very sad moment for me because if I tell you, Claire, right now, it became a point whereby I was at some point I was struggling with my mental health issues because money disappeared at the Ministry of Environment when I had entrusted them to be partners and work with me towards administering this work. And after they refused with the money that I had raised through other sponsors because they had said they don't have the budget. I used their offices and their corporate boardrooms, to make presentation with the sponsors that I had grouped in their boardrooms. But the sponsors made their pledges. The money came through the ministry, but the ministry eventually didn't release the funds to me. But instead, they picked a different NGO that was aligned with their associate, and the money went to them. And unfortunately, they didn't do something that was something I had imagined. So because to me, the most important stakeholders for this work was not the money that I was going to receive to add quality to the work, but it was the people on the ground, meeting a guy who's herding cattle along the way to stop him and tell him how much his herd of cattle is contributing towards carbon footprint, how he needs to reduce it. Those are some of the things that are inspiring me to continue despite the challenges I found myself in.
What is a cackle? What is that? I don't know that word.
A herd of cattle or livestock.
Livestock. Ah, okay, yeah, yeah.
I'll meet the headmen with their livestock, and then I'll stop them along the way to talk to them about, how they can reduce their livestock to be a manageable number so that it doesn't overgraze. Those were the stories that were inspiring me to say every day, Clara, I was sleeping with a very sore body, with no food, limited water, no support team, no support, and just me and my cameraman who thought this is a story to tell because in years to come I'll be telling people I walked 1,000 and they wouldn't believe me. So it was just a young graduate out of Lincoln Queen who was a videographer who thought I can't not be there to witness and document this thing. That's how I managed to have that snippet of a video of how this thing came up about. But the experience just to go about it, it was very tedious, but every day I would look up to run very hard because I'm motivated to see the next person, to talk to them about how they can infuse eco-mobility within that day activity to also jump on board so that collectively, if we all play a role, then we can help save our planet. So that was the motivation that I got, and people along the way, they were well wishers. They would donate water, sometimes donate a place for me to crash with my tent. And then the police were always there to escort me on the road and keep my luggage with me for me along the way while I walk. So it started as a walk, and then it got into a jog because I realized I need to shorten the time that I'm on the road, because the longer I'm on the road, I'm gonna struggle a lot with resources. So I started
Yeah.
putting in as a job now. Yeah.
Because I think it's really scary to hear that you just started and then you don't have the funding, so you still need to eat, you still need to drink, you still need to sleep and have like, I don't know, hygiene. So it's, yeah. How did you feel like on the first day? How was that like?
The first day, it was exciting because, mind you, fortunately, I had the anti-poaching unit, the wildlife department. I met them in Kasani, and they felt, because the first 100 kilometers of the walk was going to pass through the national park, so there are dangerous animals in there, so they can't let me to do the walk alone. I'm going to be, at risk of being attacked by wild animals. So they also helped me to understand that my body can do cover a lot of distances in a day, because they started waking me around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I found they have already prepared food for me and other necessities for me to
Wow.
just eat. And they tell me, no, we cleared the radius. We know there's no animals in the next 5 kilometers. Just go get on the road. By the time you finish those 5 kilometers, we'd have already packed up these things and joined you on the road. So they made the first 100 kilometers for me to be as easy as possible. And they prepared me for the next, 500 kilometers they were going to follow, because now my body was now tuned and enjoyed. And I was enjoying the last bit of the walk, and with a lot of endurance. But it's just that, unfortunately, I was just lacking a lot of hydration, because when I got to the destination, my body shut down. I was admitted to hospital, and then I woke up few hours later, and then I had to keep going in and hospital in the next 3 months to keep getting hydration through
Wow.
my veins. And before I go to work, I go in the morning to the clinic to get a drip, and then when I knock off, I come get a drip before I go home. Even right now, when the heat wave is too hot, I still struggle from the blurry visions since that walk. So I'm still suffering from the effects of that walk, because I, I never saw myself cheating, because in myself I wanted to do the walk myself and self-actualize. Even the wildlife guys were so surprised to say, but even in the bush where there's no anybody, why do you want to keep walking? I'm like, no, I want to do the 1,000 kilometer. I didn't say I want to walk when people are watching me. I want to do the 1,000 kilometers so
Yeah.
that I can actually tell people to say, if I can walk 1,000 kilometers, you can walk a few meters to the supermarket to get your necessities.
And I think it's also like it giving me goosebumps as well to hear you talk about it. But it's crazy because I think, yeah, it's not only about like telling people this is possible, but also being like, I did it, I felt it, and sadly enough, you still face consequences from it, which is bad news, but also still a sign that it happened and that you persevered even during a time that it was difficult. But you were mentioning heat waves. So were you walking during a heat wave, or what time of the year are heat waves in Botswana?
Yeah, it was during the summer period. We are in the summer period. It was the November of 2015. It was that week. It was reported a heat wave, because I started working on the 12th of November. I completed my work almost on the 2nd of December. So of that 2015. So it's during this period we're expecting to have rainfall, but unfortunately, because of climate change, rainfall has been replaced with little or no rainfall at all, and extreme heat, extreme excessive heat.
What was the hottest day like? How warm was it like?
My hottest day I experienced was like 43 degrees Celsius. And you can imagine, I don't even have enough water with me. And I don't even have enough, energy bars with me. But, I'm just hoping to God to, give me the strength to go another mile, another mile, another mile. I don't even know how I managed to do the 1,000 kilometer without getting any blisters and cramps and those kind of things. But I thought it was because of the preparations and the work I had done when I was still with the youth leadership program during the Makadi Khadi pen walks. So it's still a miracle to date to say, how did I do and complete that work without blisters is still a misery that I failed to solve today. But I tell this every day to people to say, if I did it, you can do it too, because this shouldn't have been done in vain. People should understand and know that collectively, if we play our role in making sure that we reduce our carbon footprint through our travel. Because I can imagine we have to go do our activities on a day-to-day. So we need to travel to our offices, to school, to shopping, to this, to that. So if we can infuse, that environmental consciousness within our travels, then I know collectively then we can help save our planet.
Yeah. And do you think that during this walk, you saw a lot of people, probably like a lot of people, as you're mentioning, were already like being there, helping you, probably also asking you questions on why you're walking there, or you're talking to them to raise awareness? Do you think you managed to help a lot of people to understand the importance of sustainability when it comes to travel, even for close distances? Do you think it did have the effect that you were hoping for? Or is there still like a long way to go?
There's still a long way to go, but unlike back then when the conversations was not being had, right now, the species that are starting to have this kind of conversation and try to, policymakers are also trying to find a way to say, how do we now formalize, having sustainable traveling within our constitutions and our policies, our development strategies. So there's still a long way to go, because it's still at policy stage, it's still at formulation stage. It's not being implemented on the ground yet. But there and there, you see people just doing on their own and just taking initiative to make sure that they infuse eco travel within their day-to-day activities. Especially in the rural areas, Botswana, people who use a donkey cart, they like to use donkey carts. So I think in that regard, maybe they might be doing it because of economical purposes or as a tradition, but it has environmental benefits as well, and that's where we need to highlight those effects and make them realize that they need to keep doing and practicing that more often. And if not, they can also use bicycles, because some of them use bicycles a lot when they go to their fields to go plow to their masimus.
Between today and like 10 years ago, because 2015 is almost 10 years ago, do you see like a big difference? Are many people taking the bicycle now and they wouldn't take the bicycle earlier? Or do you see a shift there?
Yeah, there's been people who are willing to take the bicycle now, and some of them, now I think it creates now a situation whereby we now need to have those solution providers, people who can have hire a bike and have bikes in the malls where people can hire, because now people now see the.
Okay, we just have a small internet issue because Ruben. Okay, so we have a short internet issue because Ruben is currently in Botswana, and in his at his office place there were some internet issues during the day already, so maybe that's why he just got kicked out of the call. But let's see how that goes. He's probably going to be back soon. Can you tell me how local communities in Botswana at the moment embrace like sustainable travel?
People embrace, infusing sustainable travel within their day-to-day activities. Some of the elements are because of culture, like I gave an example of, local communities using donkey carts to do travel to their fields, and sometimes using bicycles. And there's just a lot of people, jumping on the wagon to use bicycles late, especially since after the walk, 10 years down the line, there's just And there's other lobby groups, young people coming on board to also talk about these things. More organizations are popping up ever since then, to try and sensitize people in this regard. It's only that maybe policies or not in place to really, constitutionalize this and make sure that it's a mandate for people to infuse it in their day to day. But there and there, people make efforts on their own, to try and get to school on a bicycle, to go get something by the grocery store on their bicycle. You see those scenes more often lately.
And how do you think we can advocate for that to continue? Because you had some political and financial obstacles. Do you think that will also change? Like now we recently had COP29 happening. Do you see some change coming in your direction as well?
For us, fortunately, because we've also been in elections in October, we have a new government. And then I think these conversations are going to be had to see how we now to continue to develop our country in a sustainable manner, to really infuse sustainable travel within our policies and our strategic planning, and so that they become part and parcel of our adaptation measures that we're trying to adopt to communicate to the obligations that we set ourselves as a country in this just ended COP29. I mean, it's more or less, challenges are still the same 10 years ago when I was doing the carbon walk in COP21. Sometimes people take an environmental issue and make it a political issue. And when there's political will, that's when they will pursue that environmental matter. But when they don't see it benefiting them politically, so you continue having that stumbling block of trying to get people at par with committing to the obligations that they go to meetings to sign and make them implement them on the ground. So I think we still have a gap there. The implementation and the formulation of the implementation side of things, there's still a gap that needs to be closed as a country, so that we get our people knowing what they need to do on the ground.
And for today, for example, for your NGO, how is that working out with subsidies and investment?
It was difficult when I was starting out, since training Botswana, very, very, very tedious, But because of the will, sometimes I was enjoying from funds from my mom, my dad, my family will just keep supporting me because of the vision that they were seeing, what I want to do since I was still a little boy. So eventually after the work, that's when I started gaining momentum from other stakeholders. I mean, currently I'm running a project that's funded by United Nations.
Congrats.
It's the first funding I ever got, and it came last year after so many years, after 10 years of continuing, doing the mandate without any resource. Got close to $50,000 to continue doing our climate awareness with our local communities, especially our subsistence farmers, to help them, bring about climate smart ways to counter attack the situation of little rainfall, to say how do they continue producing food and make sure that the country remain food sufficient, and not only so, how do we make sure that collectively as a country we adopt sustainable ways that are going to be contributing significantly in our health as well. Because I tell you, the food that we eat in our plate, we never know, how clean they are because of the situation that we find ourselves right now. So these are some of the things I also talk to the people to say. An unhealthy environment is an unhealthy nation. A healthy environment is very equal to a healthy nation.
Like even in when I'm talking from, of course, I'm in a whole other country. I'm in Germany at the moment. That's where I live. But even there, you never know what's you actually know that you're eating an animal if you're eating, well, if you're eating meat. I don't eat meat, but even for vegetables, it's the same. But you never know what the vegetable has been sprayed with or what has the animal been eating. And so those things are also really important. And not looked at as much. I actually wanted to ask you something about your whole initiative as well, because you said you persevered 10 years and finally you did it. How beautiful to see that now you're getting the support, which is well deserved. So congratulations. And I wanted to know, do you have any advice to give for someone who wants to start their own initiative for sustainable travel or environmental awareness? Do you have some advice that you can share?
People should do what they love so that they can love what they do, you know. Because if I was taking this as a job, I would have long quit because it hasn't been paying me or my kids. I've been struggling for a long time without any resources, even for myself. But, I kept persevering because I loved the concept of sustainability. And I thought, if we are all organic and we all collectively, we are in touch with nature. I mean, I enjoy spending my time out in the bush doing a bushwalk than just spending time with someone over a coffee or lunch. That's just get to show you how you should really, really, really be passionate about how you do. The second thing, you should be authentic, be original, be able to have a story that you can tell. Write your own story. It's very unfortunate, and nowadays technology is coming and we use it to improve our lives, but sometimes we use it to distract our lives. There's AI coming through to, and you find people taking the shortcut instead of, grinding and putting in the hard work. They want to dilute and infuse their energy with some kind of technology, and in that way, sometimes you tend to dilute your originality because you are borrowing some elements that are not yourself. So in between us using technology to improve ourselves and our day-to-day activities, let's also guard our originality and stay original and authentic, because the world is becoming a very ugly and dangerous place. And if we have in ourselves to make it better, each and every one of us, then collectively, we can have a peaceful and a very kind and a tranquil life, for the whole world to see. Because I realize aside from this being an environmental issue, it also became a social issue in some aspects, because girls can't go to school because there's situations of climate change conflicts that are distracting them. And then there's early marriages. So when I go do this school addresses, some see this as an opportunity to say, how can we also, volunteer in your NGO to also be part and parcel of this, to run away from the social ills.
A quick question on that. What do you mean with girls cannot go because of the climate? Oh no, you're out. Scheiße. Reuben has been kicked out of the call again. We're gonna see if we can wrap it up and get some answers. Climate poverty, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to communicate, climate poverty. When they're in the menstrual cycle, they get challenges because they don't have the means to access that clean sanitary pads all the time. So these are some of the issues that pop up. And because now they get stigmatized by their fellow students, and during this time, because of the odors that they get, and students now try to shy away from going to school, and in that regard, they 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 miss many days without going to school because of this kind of challenges. So that's why I was saying I'll be going to do a school outreach address on climate change, and I find young girls trying to say we also have a situation with sanitary pads and stuff like this, and sometimes we don't have them. And when we come to school like this, we get stigmatized by other students, and it gets us not coming to school some days.
Yeah, that's a big issue of like climate poverty, basically. Yeah. Okay, we have to round up this call right now. I always have like a quick little round of questions that I ask my guests, and the answers usually only take like one sentence or one word. So if you're ready for the little 5 minute speed round, we can go for it.
Yeah,
All right. How old are you now?
I'm 40 years old now. I'll be 40 in the 21st of December.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How old were you the first time you traveled to another continent?
I never traveled to another continent before.
What's the longest time you've been away from home?
2 years, I think.
Would you rather see a lot of places or get to know one place really well?
I prefer to get to know one place really well.
Would you rather save money on accommodation or pay for a good bed? I think we know the answer, but tell me.
I'd rather save money and take my tent for camping.
What would you teach a foreigner who wants to learn your language?
I will teach them how to the first greetings, Dumela Ma, Dumela Ra, greetings, and just how to welcome yourself when you arrive.
So it's Jamela Ra.
Dumela Ra as hello, sir, as or Dumela Ma as hello, ma'am.
Okay, so for you it would be like me to you is Jamela Ra.
And then I will say Dumela Me. Lekai, as in how are you? When I say Lekai, how are you? You will say Reteng, as in no, I'm fine, thank you.
Retei.
Reteng. Yeah.
And in which language is that exactly?
It's Setswana, but I'm a Kalanga native in Botswana. So Setswana and English are our official language, but I'm of a Kalanga native.
Okay, perfect. What can't you travel without? What do you need when you travel to take with you?
My hydration system, my hydration bag. Where is it? I've been keeping it with me here. Where is it? Let me look. You see this guy here, my hydration, this guy here. I travel with it on my bag.
Okay, for the people listening to this podcast, you're showing a backpack, which is basically a backpack for water, which has a little straw that goes from the backpack that can go directly through the mouth to drink the water, to sip it from the backpack. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing I can't do without.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really important. So definitely for you when you had like the dehydration thing. What's your favorite travel song or a song that you like to listen to when you're walking around?
Normally, I like to listen to a song that's inspiring. Somebody say, the higher you see your way, the turn of Jerry.
Amazing.
Yeah, inspirational songs mostly. That's the kind of songs I like to listen to.
Beautiful. Last question. Why do you travel?
Mostly I travel because of work, and I travel because I want to see people. Sometimes I travel because I just want to get out there and see the world. I like to go outdoor. I like to have fun, and I like to be in touch with nature. So whenever I can get a chance to go see a new spot in nature where I can camp, or where I can have a picnic by the side of the dam, I always jump for that opportunity any day.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, my very last question is actually for my listeners. How can they find you? Like, where can they reach out to you if they have any questions?
Yes, mostly I'm available on LinkedIn. That's where you found me. So I
Yes, I
think
did.
you can advise your listeners to find me there as well. Other than that, they can also go on our Facebook channel for Carbon Environmental Awareness Society. Our Facebook page is also there, just to get in touch with our activities as we move along with our projects. They can check our work in there to see how we are doing. I also have some work that I do on the side for other NGOs that do cosmetics and sustainability. They're called the Sky Research. So we have a YouTube channel. We post a lot of videos that talk about sustainability in cosmetics. So they can also find me that side as well.
Amazing. All right. I will definitely share the link in the show notes so that people can reach out to you. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I would love to keep in touch as well. And it was great having you.
Thank you so much, Clara, for telling Botswana story in a German platform. It's never been told like this anywhere else before. So thank you so much for providing this platform for us to do something like this. And it is a first, podcast interview for me. So you can imagine I'm also so excited. So Thank you a million times.
Well, you were a great guest, and thank you for sharing the story, because it's a very important story, and I think there's so many stories to share. So I really love that we could highlight yours as well. This was Travel Devil, brought to you by me, your host, Clara Francken. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to continue the conversation or suggest any future guests, you can go to my Instagram @Clara Francken. Take care, and I will see you next Thursday.